Okay, ready? Here's the question for today. יחווה דעת, ברכת ההבדלה על הכוס שמברך השליח ציבור בבית הכנסת להוציא את הרבים מידי חובתם, ומדו הבדלה לשול, אם צריכה להיות מיושב או מעומד. Are you supposed to sit down for the havdalah or stand up for the havdalah? Everybody. So the first source, I'm actually going to read it to you, so you can hear it from Tosafot itself. It actually starts in Tosafot. There's a Mishnah in Masechet Berachot that says the following. It's talking about the meal. And the Mishnah says, Hayu Yoshevin, if they're all sitting down eating. Now wait till you, don't judge right when you hear this. Hold on a second. Hayu Yoshevin, if they're all sitting down eating, Kol Echad Ebarech Le'atzmo, then don't do one kiddush for everybody. Everyone should do their own kiddush. Hesebu, if they're reclining on their couches, then Echad Mebarech Kulan, then everyone should be yotzeh with one kiddush. Tosafot on this Mishnah writes, these days there's no such thing as reclining anymore. They used to recline. So if people were reclining on their couches, it means they're committed to this meal together, and then they do one kiddush for everybody. But in those days, in the olden days, if they were just sitting down, that wasn't a commitment for a meal. That's not a seudah kivua, and therefore that's not enough to say kiddush for everyone. But it says Tosafot, in our days, where sitting down is how you eat, there's no more reclining. If everyone just sits down, then you should do kiddush one person for everyone, because that's called kovea seudah lechunam. Now, Tosafot, a couple pages later, says as follows. He says over here, Sarich iyun ksat. Really, really problematic. We have to figure out havdallah she'anu mavdilin ve'omdim, that we say havdallah standing up. Hech anu potrin zeh et zeh. How are we motzi each other when we're all standing? Miyayin u'mehavdallah, from the grape juice and from the havdallah. Ahara she'en anu lo yoshevin ve'lo misubin. But havdallah says, I guess in Tosafot's place, they used to stand up during havdallah. He says, by havdallah, we're not sitting and we're not reclining. So what is holding all of us together? In order for someone to do kiddush with yayin, something with yayin or bread, one person for everyone, there have to be a unit. There have to be a unit, some sort of a commitment that we're all in this together, sitting down, leaning. But if everyone is standing, there's no commitment. So what says, Sarich iyun. It really doesn't make sense how havdalah should work and be motzi other people when we're standing. Maybe you can say, since everyone is having in mind and is standing there to do havdalah together, maybe it works. Therefore, says Tosafot, it's really proper for the person doing havdalah and the people listening to the havdalah, that they should sit down for havdalah, everyone. Because if they're sitting down, everyone knows we're all in this together and we're all one unit. So it's just straight out Tosafot that says you should sit down. Everyone should sit down for the havdalah. That's the first. The kiddush is a whole different topic. I mean, this is an offshoot of the Gemara is talking about kiddush.
You started by saying so you would think that it's the connection.
No. The Gemara is talking about kiddush. Tosafot, those pages of Gemara are all about kiddush. Tosafot is, and there's plenty about kiddush over there. Tosafot is saying, by the way, I want to bring up havdalah. That's how this is working. The Gemara is not about havdalah. The Gemara is about kiddush. So kiddush is a whole thing. There's a whole pages and pages. So the Lord saying, by the way, I want to bring up havdalah. Havdalah, there's no sitting, there's no eating, there's no nothing. All right, nothing happening after havdalah. We'll go home. What's holding us together as one unit? We run out the second it's over. So therefore, at least we should sit down. He says, if we sit down, we're all one unit for havdalah. And this is the first source that Chaim brings. It says, I read it. Therefore, everyone should sit down. That everyone should be one unit. And agreeing with this is the Mordechai. שטוב למבדיל ולשומעים שישבו בשעת ההבדלה. The Mordechai writes, everyone should sit down as well. In the Orochot Hayim, he writes, נהגו להבדיל מעומד. It is the custom to do havdallah standing up. לכבוד המלך, in honor of the king. Thanks. In honor of the king, שאנו מלווים אותו, that we're escorting him out. And so it's not respectful to the king, the queen of Shabbat, that Malav Malka, that we're sitting down while the king leaves. If you want to escort someone, you stand up. Even though Kiddush, you say the same thing, aren't you greeting the king? Kiddush is a whole other question, whether you sit down or you stand up. That's the whole situation. So the Orhot Hayim gives a reason.
We need to sit to bind ourselves as one group.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's a whole thing about Kiddush. It's not so clear that you should sit down, that you should stand up for Kiddush. It's from the... Friday night we stand. The Arizal says that's a whole other topic for another time. But regardless, it's not so clear from the halakha that you should stand for Kiddush. Maran says you should. At the end of the day, we should. I'm not talking halakhically right now. I'm talking building the halakha. The practical halakha is we stand up Friday night. The practical halakha is we stand up Friday night. I'm saying pull back the curtain behind that halakha. It's not like 1,000% clear. There's a whole inyan whether you should sit or you stand. There's a mahloket. We stand. Bottom line, we stand. Okay. Now, so we have mahloket here. Tosafot says you should sit down, and the Orhot Hayim says you should stand up because that's kavod for the king. And so let me skip a little bit here. I want to skip to Reb Chaim Volozhin over here. Over here he says, Omnam, in the Sefer Aliyat Eliyahu Katav, Amar li Harav Hagon Tzvi Hirsch Av Betin Otilan. Reb Tzvi Hirsch says as follows: Shera'a b'mo'inav et Hagon Reb Chaim Volozhin. He saw with his own eyes Reb Chaim Volozhin, who is a student of the Gra of the Gaon of Vilna. She'evdil b'motzei Shabbat mi'umat. Reb Chaim Volozhin did havdallah standing up. He didn't have the courage and the guts to ask Reb Chaim Volozhin, why are you standing up when you're doing havdallah? She'elo hagra, the Gaon of Vilna, your Rebbe, bebi'urob pesak havdallah miyushav. He holds like the Tosafot that you should sit down. So why is Reb Chaim Volozhin, one of the main students of the Gaon of Vilna, standing up? He saw one day Reb Chaim Volozhin learning the Gra. And Reb Chaim Volozhin said, daat, the Gaon of Vilna only wrote this for himself, just so he remembers his own footnotes, all the halachot. And once they were talking about it, he said, Rabbi, your Rebbe said havdallah is sitting down. Why do you stand up? And he answered him, no, I saw himself, he stood up. I don't care what he wrote. This is similar to what you were telling me yesterday. The Gaon of Vilna stood up when he did havdallah. And so do I do. So how do you do that? Why did he write down that you sit down? It seems that you can answer. Maybe Tosafot was saying you have to sit down. In those days, everyone used to share the havdallah wine, just like Kiddush. For Hibub Mitzvah, they'd pass around the havdallah and everyone would taste. So Tosafot saying, if you're going to do this, which is sort of like a Kiddush sort of a thing, now you want to drink the wine also, you got to be part of the unit to be yotzeh in the yain. Otherwise, you got to make the yain yourself. So you want to drink the yain, you got to sit down and be part of this unit. Now you're actually drinking. But in these days, that nobody drinks the havdallah. Only the guy who does the havdallah, maybe even Tosafot would agree that you can stand up. This is the explanation of Reb Chaim Volozhin, or the Vilna Gaon's sitira. ולכן, הוצרכו ליישב מהמנהג שמתוך שקובעים לעשות ידי חובת ההתוודה יוצאים ידי חובת בריחת הגפן על היין, אף על פי שהם עומדים. אבל אם המבדיל שותה את כל הכוס, if the guy making havdallah drinks the whole thing, ואין השומעים נזקקים לטעום מכוס ההבדלה, and no one else wants to drink, כמו שכתב הטור, בשם רבי סעדיה גאון, שאין צריך לדעת אם לבני ביתו, nobody has to drink the havdallah, שאין לגלות לשומעים לשומעים, therefore, אף לכתחילה אפשר לשאת ידי חובת ההבדלה מעומד, therefore you should be able to stand up, just like we do shofar and Megillah and lots of these mitzvot standing up. In addition, They bring proof they learn from Sefirat HaOmer, actually, that you should stand up for the havdallah as well, because that it uses the word lachem, v'yivdaltem lachem. You should separate for yourselves. I think this was last week or 2 weeks ago, Pirasha. V'yivdaltem lachem. You should separate for the maftir. You should separate for yourselves. Any time that we have the word lachem, it's always a mitzvah that you have to stand up, right? Like birit milah is a birit lachem, you stand up. Shofar is lachem, you should blow for you. Sisit says lachem. It says the Rosh Chodesh, it says lachem. That's why Birkat Levana standing up. The Omer usfatim lachem. Anything that it says the word lachem, you stand up, and it also says it for havdallah. So it's another reason why you should stand up. And so we have mahoket both ways. Chacham Ovadia, at the end of the day, he says the Ben Ish Chai writes, "Shenogim lomad havdallah mi'omad in Baghdad." In Baghdad, they stood up when they said havdallah, l'lavot hamelech, and he writes, "Shegam be'eretz hakodesh en makpidim lishev." In Israel, he heard, says the Ben Ish Chai, they don't care if you sit down or you stand up. Says Chacham Ovadia, "Mikol makom nir'eh sheyoter nachon lishev." It seems better that you should sit down, like Tosafot says, for havdallah. ורק בקידוש המנהג לעמוד. קידוש, okay, then the מנהג to stand up. שכן צריך להיות על פי האריזה, because we go by the האריזה. ובעל זה יש לסמוך על סברת התוספות, שכן סוברים גם אורחות חיים והקובו. הבא בהבדלה, when it comes to הבדלה, שאדרבה, האחרונים כותבים בשם המקובלים, שצריכים לשב, עדיף לנהוג כדעת מרן שולחן ערוך. מרן שולחן ערוך writes, you should sit like תוספות. The Ramah, Ramoshi Itzlis writes, נהגו לעמוד. Not like Tosafot. We should take Maran and Tosafot and we should sit. וכן עיקר להלכה למעשה, לשבת בשעת ההבדלה במוצאי שבת ובמוצאי יום טוב, בין המבדיל ובין השומעים. Therefore, says the Chavadia, the minhag should be, we should sit down like Maran and Tosafot says, for all the havdalahs that we do, besides for Yak Nahaz on the Saturday night, that's Yom Tov. Now, because this kiddush is going to outweigh the havdalah halakha. That gets the whole kiddush situation. We stand up for kiddush because the Arizal said to, but it's going to outweigh the havdalah sitting thing. It's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's
great reason
yeah.
You want to stand up.
Yeah.
And they said, actually, we prefer to stand
because
up
because you have to be a unit. You have to be a unit. Where's the unit?
What the concept? Should you say they all in their mind feel like a unit?
You have to show unity. You have to do something. You have to invest. You have to invest in to be a member and be yotzei. You have to invest in it. You have to commit to it. Now, there's one interesting thing that Chacham David Yosef writes that I didn't see anyone wrote. Chacham Yitzhak didn't write it. Chacham Ovadia didn't write it. I checked Hazon Ovadia. Chacham David has his own hidush here. Well, he quotes a few people. He says the same thing as his father. He says you should sit down when you do kiddush. The minhag Sfaradim v'yedut mizrach nachon yoter. Havdallah. Sorry. The minhag Sfaradim v'yedut mizrach nachon yoter l'shevet b'shat havdallah ben hamavdil alakos ben hashoma'im ויש שנהגו לעמוד בשעת ההבדלה. ומנהג רוב עדות האשכנזים לעמוד. ויש מהאשכנזים שנהגו לשבת בשעת ההבדלה. Says the Chacham David Yosef, after he brings the whole thing on the bottom. The question is, what if you're alone? What if you're doing Havdalah alone? You have nobody to be including, so nobody has to. So maybe the sitting down reason will not apply anymore, and you have two reasons to stand. Says the Chacham David, you're like, oh, for the past 7. ואם נמסר לבדו כשמבדיל על הכוס, אף למנהג הספרדים יעמוד בשעת ההבדלה, says Chacham David. It's a big hidush. If you're alone, then you may as well stand up. But on the bottom, he writes, v'yedid nefesh harav agon Rabbi Yitzhak Mazuz. That's the son of the one who just passed away. Rabbi Yitzhak Mazuz. Rabbi Yitzhak Mazuz, Shalita, he says, Ali b'dei mekubalim, you should still sit down. And so, but Chacham David says you should stand. So that's one time that you should stand up, according to this, is when you do Havdalah alone. I just want to read one more word from Chacham Ovadia that I really liked, and I feel it's important. We don't talk about it enough. At the end of these halachot, he writes, "Yesh kesat mehamone ha'am sheka'asher mavdilim al hakos ahar bekat me'orei ha'esh omrim eze pesukim le'atzlaha." There are so many people that they always say pesukim in the middle of the Havdalah. You say Besamim, they have Pesukim to say. You say Ha'esh, Kol ha'arim al ha'esh, or whatever they're saying. Or Ka'ashem mistakilim b'tziponehem omrim, berachad ha'atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadenu. We're always saying things. וראוי לגעוד בהם, says the Chamadia. You should yell at them. כי זהו הפסק באמצע הבדלה. But I love the way he finishes. The way he finishes is, ואם ירצו, יגידו כל הפסוקים שירצו לאחר שתהיה כוס ההבדלה. So I can hear him saying it. If they want, let them say the whole Tanakh if they want, after Havdalah is over. But during Havdalah, we should be quiet. Yeah. Shh, don't say anything. Right now, we're just doing the Baracha. Halakha l'ma'aseh, for Sfaradim, we should sit down during Havdalah. Huh? It's a hefsek. Yeah. Yes. Hefsek. Oh, every week. Every week. When the Esh, they love the Esh, man. These guys love the Esh. Bottom line halakha for us is, with more than one person, for sure, we should all be sitting down. When it comes to one person alone,
Here, two of them up here. They're all related downstairs, and that way to the
growing up, my rabbi and my shul and deal always stood up for Havdalah.
We used to stand up. And we always stand up. Because how many people really said havdallah?
Yeah.
Everyone was going home with wives. Anyways, and this. So I want that kind of discussion with someone. They said, yeah, that's not too much. I went away for one Shabbat. I said, that's what I want to hear. He said, no, you have to sit down.
They're from Nana?
Everybody sit down.
Oh, Hashem.
That's how it became.
What do you think about the alone Havdalah? It's an interesting case, huh? Acham David, interesting.
In others, they all sit down. The guy who makes the Havdalah
Stand up. That's what we did in Deal. It's a Syrian, I think it's a Syrian custom, but I don't know why. It's maybe so that everyone can see the guy who's doing it. I don't know. Anyway, halakha l'ma'aseh.
You ever been to the NCS water from the phone? They're all standing from the big circle, everyone's holding. That's all.
Maybe these days, like you said, Moshe was saying, these days we don't have hasaba anymore. We don't have. Bottom line, halakha says, we should sit down for Havdalah. When you're alone, if you want to stand up, there is a reason to stand up, and don't talk in the Havdalah as well. That's it.